An unprecedented legal and political stoush has erupted in Queensland over the new appointment of a new Chief Justice who's been described as a puppet willing to do the state government's bidding. There are calls from within the legal profession and even the judiciary for the new Chief Judge, Tim Carmody, to resign. One of the state's most senior judges sitting on the Supreme Court bench is now openly questioning the independence and ability of the new appointee and has called on him to resign. Matt Wordsworth reports.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have a right to go.
It was this announcement by the Queensland Premier which sparked a heavyweight battle in the legal community.
I'm very conscious that it is a very historic day indeed.
The Premier and the Attorney-General, Jared Blay, elevated Chief Magistrate Tim Carmody QC to the highest judicial position in Queensland, the Office of Chief Justice.
I thank the legal community for the consultation, the extensive consultation that we've undertaken, and I thank the legal community in their numbers, obviously today, the support, Mr Carmody, that you have amongst the profession and in the community for your elevation to high office of Chief Justice.
Thank you.
After a week of bitter infighting, a Supreme Court judge is now openly demanding Mr Carmody step aside.
Is this a crisis in the Supreme Court?
I think to describe that as a crisis is an understatement. It is like the position of the Titanic 5 minutes after they've hit the iceberg.
Until he resigned last week in protest, Peter Davis was the president of the Bar Association, one of the state's highest profile barristers, prosecuting Bundaberg surgeon Dr Jayant Patel and notorious sex offender Robert John Farden. Peter Davis was consulted over the appointment of the new Chief Justice.
I met with the attorney and with his Chief of Staff at Parliament House, and there was a frank discussion about who ought to be the next Chief Justice of Queensland.
Suffice to say, you weren't urging the appointment of Tim Carmody?
I think that's obvious.
Tim Carmody has been the centre of controversy for months, accused of siding with the government over its controversial anti-bikie laws.
To appoint somebody who is overtly, publicly supportive of a government at a time when there's a debate about the propriety of the actions of the Attorney-General vis-à-vis the court, for a judicial officer, a junior judicial officer, magistrate, to do that, and then to see him offered this promotion is a very disturbing thing.
Walter Sofronoff says as a family court judge, Carmody was found by an appeals court to have cut and pasted paragraphs of a previous judgment into a subsequent one.
He patched together something like a university student would do, an essay, hoping it would pass muster. The result, of course, was that it was overturned unanimously by the appeal court of the family court, the full family court. And what do you think was the effect on the husband and wife?
At the announcement of his appointment, one of the first questions Tim Carmody faced was about his independence.
I am fiercely independent. If my views happen to coincide with the government's views, that's pure coincidence. There will be many times when I disagree with the government's position, but again, that's irrelevant to the job I'm doing.
From Chief Magistrate to Chief Justice in less than a year.
In other media interviews, he revealed not one Supreme Court judge rang to congratulate him.
I've often said, and I'm sure nobody will argue, that I may not be the smartest lawyer in the room. And if you were in a room with me and I was the smartest lawyer, it might be time to leave it. But there's more to being a Chief Justice than a black-letter lawyer.
Solicitor and Vice President of the Queensland Council of Civil Liberties, Terry O'Gorman, says it harks back to another era.
This is yet again an indication of the fact that we are back fair and square in Joeland.
He says it's reminiscent of the meteoric rise of former Police Commissioner Terry Lewis, a central figure in the Fitzgerald corruption inquiry of the 1980s.
He leapfrogged dozens of senior police officers. The comparison between this appointment of Chief Justice and that of Sir Terry Lewis is eerie and extremely worrying. The only difference is Mr Lewis was later found guilty of corruption. There's no suggestion that Judge Carmody is anywhere along that track.
Corruption fighter Tony Fitzgerald himself weighed in with a statement saying it's deeply troubling that the megalomaniacs currently holding power in Queensland are prepared to damage even fundamental institutions like the Supreme Court and cast doubt on fundamental principles like the independence of the judiciary. And last night, in a speech, one of the state's most senior judges, Justice John Muir of the Court of Appeal, openly called for Tim Carmody to step aside.
The obvious lack of support for the Chief Magistrate's elevation sees that the only appropriate course is for him to withdraw.
That is a remarkable event. A man who is thoroughly conservative has been provoked to make the speech that he did last night at the North Queensland Bar Association dinner. I've never seen anything like it.
The ABC has been told Tim Carmody has taken leave and not available for comment. The Attorney-General, Jared Blay, issued a two-line statement.
Judge Carmody's professional and life experience is both distinguished and diverse. His Honour has the keen legal knowledge, administrative skills and integrity that are essential qualities for the role of Chief Justice.
The question now is whether other members of the Supreme Court will speak out.
It's time to remove himself from the picture so that controversy doesn't attach to the Supreme Court and so that the judges can be at peace.